The School for Field Studies, in partnership with the Tablelands Regional Council, is conducting a revegetation trial along Boar Pocket Road as part of the Reef Guardian Council's program. This initiative aims to reduce roadside vegetation management costs while increasing biodiversity and improving habitat connectivity. SFS is focusing on 4 critical road-creek intersections: Thomas Creek, Severn Creek, Patterson Creek, and Swamp Creek. Our baseline faunal survey is a crucial step in understanding the current biodiversity at these intersections before revegetation begins. The survey documented a wide range of fauna, including birds, mammals, amphibians, reptiles, and ants. These findings provide an essential insight into the ecological complexity of the areas and will serve as a benchmark to measure biodiversity changes as the revegetation progress happens. The 3 main benchmark animals chosen were ants, birds, and bats.
So the Boar Pocket Road alternative roadside revegetation trial is based on a report from the School for Field Studies that looks at how we can improve the roadsides with native vegetation or any low-growing vegetation or low-maintenance vegetation. So it could be tree alleys or it could be ground covers, depending on what part of the road it's in and what other restrictions we face on the road for visibility and that sort of stuff. So we'll take out the weeds and replace them with vegetation that doesn't need to be mown or slashed or sprayed or anything like that. So in the long run, we're hoping to reduce the maintenance costs and the visual amenity of the roadsides as well.
There are 9 different functional groups that Anderson came up with. Some of them are more common in rainforests versus disturbed areas. At Thomas and Swamp Creek, there was an invasive species, Tetramorium similimum, and it is not a pest, but it is not native to Australia like the other ants that were found here. Disturbance is linked to the number of functional groups, and as there are more disturbance, there is a higher number of functional groups that might be reported. At Thomas and Severn Creek, there were 5 ant species, with Thomas Creek having 4 functional groups and Severn having 3 functional groups. Patterson Creek only had 2 species of ants and 2 functional groups, while Swamp Creek had 4 species of ants and 3 functional groups.
Despite Boar Pocket Road and all the creek crossings being in the wet tropics and containing a significant amount of rainforest species, there is a lack of rainforest wet tropic bird species, 12 other species that we would expect to be in the area. This suggests that the disturbance caused by cattle pasture displaces the other rainforest wet tropic species, further limiting their access to resources and their distribution, as they are specialist species that are valuable to Australian wet tropics. Revegetation would provide the additional habitat that is limited for species such as the Victoria's riflebird and the gray-headed robin, and many others. For Thomas Creek, 23 bird species were identified to be present. At Severn Creek, 21 bird species were identified. Patterson also had 21 bird species, while Swamp had 20 identified bird species. Across the 4 creek crossings, Thomas, Severn, Patterson, and Swamp, all bird species were common. More species were mixed forest species, and the second most number of species were rainforest-dependent species. However, there was only 1 identified species at each site, the Maclay's honeyeater, that is classified as a rainforest wet tropic species. Rainforest wet tropic species are those strictly endemic to the wet tropics region.
We identified 12 microbat species and 1 megabat that was seen flying into the forest fragment at Severn Creek, showing external species come for foraging. At Thomas Creek, we identified 7 microbat species. Severn, we found 5, Patterson, we found 9, and Swamp, we found 6, with some species overlapping per area. All these species rely heavily on riparian vegetation and forest fragments for foraging and roosting. At 2 sites, Severn and Patterson, we found large colonies of the large-footed myotis. Over 90 individuals were found in the bridge cracks at Patterson Creek, showing a thriving bat population in the area. We also identified a rare species, the flute-nosed bat, at multiple creek crossings. This indicates the critical importance of these creek crossings in the area.
Mammals like platypus will be happier in clean water, and arboreal mammals, when the trees are a little bit higher, they also have their ecological function.
Site-specific challenges, such as stabilizing creek banks at Swamp Creek, are critical, Addressing erosion will protect sensitive species, including the platypus, by improving habitat stability and water quality. Roads near creek crossings pose significant risks to fauna. Wildlife underpasses or overpasses at key points can reduce road mortality and maintain genetic connectivity. Barbed wire also poses a major threat to bats. Replacing with smooth wire or encouraging native climbing plants, such as bower vine, can mitigate this harm. Our initial study, conducted 10 days in the dry season, highlights the need for expanded research. Future surveys will incorporate aquatic invertebrate studies to assess water quality and extend into the wet season to capture seasonal variations. Additional methods, such as dung beetle studies, can provide insights into nutrient cycling and soil health. Long-term monitoring of species like the platypus will be vital to assess the success of erosion control and habitat restoration efforts. Through revegetation and ongoing research, this project seeks to foster healthy ecosystems, enhance biodiversity, and ensure the resilience of these landscapes for generations to come.